Well, if Kansas City hadn't won this game, they can't be considered a Super Bowl contender anymore. You can't have the up and down middle part of the season and then go to New England, a team in all likelihood you are going to have to face in the postseason, a team who beat you twice last year, now in crushing defeats in very close games, but beat you twice last year, and lose to them again when they are clearly struggling, when they're playing their worst football, when their offense cannot find its footing for the better part of a month now, and then feel like you can win multiple road playoff games, that you can get to the Super Bowl, much less beat whatever juggernaut comes out of the NFC. So on the Chiefs side of things, the win, any type of win, keeps their Super Bowl hopes alive. Winning the way they did, to me, you might feel better about this year's Chiefs team than last year's Chiefs team, even though last year's Chiefs team had the #1 overall seed and this year's Chiefs team won't. Because last year's team was 12-4. This year's team is going to be 12-4. Last year's team lost to the Patriots in the regular season at home, or I'm sorry, in Foxborough and then at home in the playoffs. Just went to Foxborough and beat them. But most importantly, last year at the end of the season, Canty, the defense looked the worst it had looked all year long. It was starting to be really shaky. This year, defense gave up 17 to the Chargers, 9 to the Raiders, and now 16 to New England. The defense is peaking at the exact right time, and nobody thinks the Chiefs need to have a top 5 defense. They just can't have a bottom 5 defense. So, and I know we're going to talk about the calls, and there were some questionable calls went against New England, but the Chiefs kept their realistic Super Bowl aspirations alive, and they exercised some demons from last season by going into that stadium and beating that quarterback and that coach.
Well, confidence comes from demonstrated performance, and having the opportunity to actually go into Foxborough, where the Patriots are virtually unbeatable, and get that win, I think that's huge moving forward, just knowing that if they have to go down that road again, that this is a team that's more than capable of being able to get that done. The New England Patriots, even though that was an ugly loss yesterday and they've got some ugly losses this season, this is a situation where they still have the inside track to have a first-round bye. So they will be one of the top 2 seeds in the AFC. So eventually, you're probably going to have to go into Foxborough. Listen, now with the New England Patriots remaining schedule, the Cincinnati Bengals, you have the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. I think the Patriots are done losing this season. That Bills game is in Foxborough. So I just look at this situation for the Chiefs, knowing that you have the potential to be the 3 seed when the playoffs start. If you do have to go back in Foxborough and say the divisional round and get a win, you have this experience to be able to draw on. But to your point about their defense showed up in situational football probably more so than we expected. They were able to hold the Patriots offense to 2 of 12 on 3rd down and 1 of 3 in the red zone. If you're playing that well in situational football, that's something that bodes well once you get to the postseason.
And they took the Patriots' punch at the beginning. The Patriots get 2 third-down conversions via penalty and then run a trick play because they know the offense is going to be stagnant, and they get a touchdown. That's immediately followed by a Patrick Mahomes interception. Mahomes started this game with the most consecutive incompletions of his career and threw a pick. And it felt like, you got to be kidding, like, same old story. And then to survive that and then also survive the rally at the end, to me, spoke a lot to what the Chiefs are made of.
But also they needed help from the Chiefs' defense because Patrick Mahomes was not 100%. The hand was bothering him. He got hit in the stomach. It seemed like his ribs were bothering him. He was kind of gimping along, didn't have his best game, and still obviously came out with the win, thanks in large part, obviously, to their defense. But we heard something yesterday that I've never heard at Foxborough. Fans booing the Patriots, actually booing. Belichick was asked afterwards, and shockingly, he gave a 2-word answer. Nick, how concerned or worried should the Patriots be about at least this last month of offense, but really their offense this entire season?
Patriots' offense is bad. Like, this is not – you look at the teams that – remember early in the year I kept saying if you took every team's offense, defense, and special teams, the best unit in all of football was the Patriots secondary, the Patriots pass defense in particular. I don't know if that's true anymore. But right now, if you took all the teams that we know are going to be in the playoffs, all the 9-win or better teams, the weakest unit of all of them is the Patriots offense right now. They can't run the football. Sony Michel got a few carries early, and then he got banished. They actually started running the ball with James White, something they almost never do. They had 2 drives where they accumulated more than 45 yards. Patriots' 5 biggest plays of the game: a flea flicker, a pass from the running back defensive pass interference, and a 42-year-old man scrambling for his life on fourth down. They can't move the football. I have no reason to believe that's going to change, and that's the only reason why, when you're saying you think they're done losing for the rest of the year, I think they'll beat Buffalo, but Buffalo's defense is good enough that if the offense stays this stagnant, to me, it wouldn't be shocking if they lost that game. The offense is in real trouble in New England.
No, the offense is in real trouble, and we saw outside of the trick play early on in that game, the only way they were able to set up points for a touchdown was by that block punt by Nate Ebner led to the Brandon Bolden touchdown run. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. We should be concerned about this Patriots offense. I know I've tried to give them as much time as they need in order to develop an identity. But usually around this time of the year, we've figured out who the Patriots are going to be once we're going into January football. But they just haven't done that, Nick. If you look at yesterday's game, averaged 4.5 yards a play. I think that's a true indicator of how much productivity you're getting from the offensive side of the ball. On the season, they're right around 5 yards. For context, the league average is 5.5 yards per play. So this would be one of the worst offenses Bill Belichick has ever coached. This would be the worst offense in terms of yards per play this entire decade. So I think it's at a point now when you see the pressure that they allowed on Tom Brady, that offensive line, which had some moving parts yesterday because Ted Karras was out. When you see the inability to be able to have balance with the run game, and then you see that Tom Brady is not on the same page with the receivers outside of Julian Edelman, I feel like there's a lot to worry about in terms of this Patriots offense being good enough for them to compete for a championship.
And in about 20 minutes, we're going to get to the officiating stuff. But the officiating stuff would not have been a story because the alleged scoop and score, I think Tyreek Hill might have gotten him, but the thing that was whistled dead, and then also the stepped out of bounds happened on the same drive. That drive culminated in a 1st and goal from the 3. If that offense can just punch it in, then the officiating is a footnote rather than a major story. They had 3 opportunities with starting 1st and goal from the 3, and they had to settle for a field goal because they took a negative play. They ended up not being able to get the yards necessary. This Pats team, they need blocked punts. They need trick plays. They need defensive scores, or else they've broken 20 points once in the last 5 football games.
That was last Sunday night against the Texans.
And it was a game they had 9 points with 4 minutes left.
As poorly as they played, they were still down a touchdown at the very end and could have at
finished
least tied
down a touchdown too.
Time now for Put a Grade on It, sponsored by CarMax. Will always get the last word. Patty Mahomes was solid. He was not spectacular, though, by his MVP standards. However, he picks up his first career win against the Patriots. Nick, put a grade on Mahomes' game.
Yeah, I disagree. I think Patrick was outstanding. I thought the first drive of the game, he was once again shaky against New England, picked himself up, rallied. You mentioned the fact that something happened to his hand, I think, when he got tackled on one play. Against that defense, to come back from the one mistake and then play the way he did, as composed as he did in that environment, I give him an A, especially considering the context of how important the game was for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a B+. I mean, there were some mistakes on Pat Mahomes' part, but being able to go into Foxborough and get that win, I thought that was phenomenal. I mean, whether it was zone or man, the Patriots defense really didn't have any answers for that Chiefs offense early on. They scored on 5 of their first 7 possessions. So the fact that Pat Mahomes was able to do that and dictate the complexion of the game and go up 23-7, I think that was impressive, and that went a long ways to them winning that game.
Patriots finally get the loss as Patrick Mahomes finally gets a win over that team. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.